Welcome to Rumor, where we chase down the whispers that echo through the corridors of power. I'm FJ, your guide through the maze of modern politics, and today we're tackling the seismic shifts under President Trump's leadership in his first 2 weeks back in office. It's been nothing short of a political tempest. Executive orders have been signed with the speed of a tweet, stirring up a storm of reactions. We're talking immigration, environment, and a complete overhaul of government operations, each move a headline in itself. We'll be dissecting the impact, the rumors, and the raw facts with my co-host DJ by my side. But this episode, it's all about laying out the narrative that's unfolding right before our eyes. Whether you're here for the drama or the data, we've got you covered.
So let's get into it.
I wanted to save this episode for Trump's first 100 days, but there's so much going on that we have to start covering. It's only been 2 weeks. There's so much to talk about. So there was a large number of executive orders from the president. And just to clarify, an executive order is an instruction from the president telling the government workers what to do without needing Congress's okay. It's like a boss giving orders in an office.
That's exactly what it is.
So just think anybody who owns a business, everything that you make up, that's your executive order.
I mean, that's the power you get as a president. And Trump ain't messing around, you know? He's doing shit like he's gonna die tomorrow, like today is his last day.
I mean, most of the executive orders were done on day one. He goes, he gets signed in, he gets sworn in. Right after that, it's executive order after executive order.
Hey, I mean, I kind of, I admire Trump's work ethic, I want to say, you know, and that's the reason he is rich like the way it is, because the guy doesn't fucking sleep, you know? He's like, boom, 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 gets shit done. If any of us got shit done at the rate that he gets shit done, you'll reach to your ultimate goal by, I don't know, sooner than later. If you're sleeping all day doing nothing, nothing gets done. So, I mean, some people say Trump, so like I was thinking about this earlier, you know, I was thinking, like, you know, the reason Trump is rich, because, like, look at him. He's been a president. It's been, like, I don't know, not even a month, and he's got so much stuff done. It's been, like, a busy news day every day. And it's like everything is woken up. And with this rate, anything or anybody that wants to get to a certain goal, if you move at Trump's rate, I think that goal is achievable by the fraction of the time that, you know, it will take a normal person.
Yeah, he definitely got right to work.
And you said that we wanted to do, well, we said that we wanted to do a 100-day episode. If we waited for a day at 100, we wouldn't know where to start. So it looks like we're going to do monthly, or by day 100, we'll probably need 10 episodes to cover everything that's going to be done.
Yeah, and what's interesting, you're saying monthly. It's only been 2 weeks.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like, it doesn't feel like it, though, but...
All right, so let's get into it. So first of all, I just want to say I'm trying to take the politics out of it. I know it's hard to take the politics out when you're talking about the president and executive orders, but if you just remove the politics and actually look at the substance, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So whether you're a Trump fan or you're not, that doesn't matter. What matters is what's actually getting done, the rumors behind everything, and what we've uncovered.
And which is the point of this podcast in general.
Exactly.
And just to, like, throw it out there, it's not like, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, diehard Trump fan, or I'm trying to keep, like, Trump's, I mean, it's not like I'm trying to keep his side. It's just the reason I talk about it, the way I talk about it, is because you just got to give it to him. You know, he's getting so much shit done.
And what people are forgetting, I know a lot of people don't like the way he says things. Some people don't even disagree with what he says, but they don't like how he says it.
I don't care how he says it, as long as whatever he's doing is for the good cause of the country. I mean, who cares? Like, I don't care how he's in personal life, if he's, like, mean to his wife or if he's sweet to her. I mean, obviously she loves him. They've been together for a long time, you know, they had a kid together. But as long as he's getting shit done, like, I don't really care what the person is like. So you either, I mean, you can't fucking have it all, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But I think the reason why some people are put off, and we're going off on a tangent here, but the reason why some people are put off by him is the way that he says things is just really brash. But you know what? He's a brash New Yorker. Like, this is who is in office, that's how people speak in New York. That's how.
No, I mean, doesn't have. I think that that's just his personality. That's just how he is. And in a way, I like that because, he's not being fake. That's how it is. Where every other politician, like if they're in Michigan, they try to say something to be nice to the Michigan people. If they're in Boston, they try to say nothing. Well, Trump doesn't give a fuck. He just says it how it is, whatever he is. And in a way, he's true to whatever he's saying. So he's not hiding anything, or he's not being political to try to make people feel good in front of their faces, and then behind their backs is like, okay, fuck these people. So Trump, if he says something, he says it how he feels, and that's why I like Trump. I mean, because he speaks the truth. At least I think he does.
He's always been very consistent throughout. When he first came onto the scene as a celebrity, he was more of a celebrity. He was a deal maker. Even when he came onto the scene, he always spoke the same way. He has not changed.
Yeah, and what kind of shocks me, and again, I know we're getting off topic over here, but what shocks me too is that before Trump was the president, I mean, Trump was like, everybody wanted to be Trump. Everybody talked about Trump, how Trump was like, a millionaire, made this wealth, built New York and did all these like great things. So like everybody admired Trump. Every kid wanted to be like Trump. And now all of a sudden, because people have been brainwashed and have been taught to think that Trump is no good because of this, because of that, although nobody really has a very good enough reason other than, he doesn't know how to talk, which is, that's not his job. He's not a speech writer. He's a president. He needs to, make shit done and get things done right for this country. And after he became the president, all of a sudden everybody hates Trump, which I never understood that. That shows you how easily people can be brainwashed and manipulated to think in a way that the government or anybody wants you to think.
Yeah, well, he definitely promised to drain the swamp, even in his first term, because he's not a politician. He's just like everybody else. He's a rich guy, but he's just like everybody else. He does not in politics. Now that he's in politics, he's shaking it up because he is saying things that people are thinking. He's not talking, if you've heard the expression, talk like a politician. He doesn't talk like a politician. He just says whatever everybody else is thinking, but not saying out loud.
And I think that's a good thing. I feel like people should respect that so you know what to expect with Trump. It's not like, he might say this. Like with him, I mean, you don't always know what to expect. I'll take that back. But, when he says something, he means it, yeah.
Let's get back to the beginning of it all. He gets sworn in January 20th, and then there's a slew of executive orders. And in general, for executive orders, he actually undoes 78 of Biden's policies.
Damn.
And in general, most of them are against diversity, equity, inclusion, and environmental regulations. And most notably, the biggest thing that he first declared right when he was sworn in is national emergency at the southern border. So what this did is it allowed military deployment to enhance border security. And we know from the last...
Excuse me while I eat this delicious apple.
I'm cutting that out.
I like it, man. It's good.
I'm starting over. I'm cutting that out. What the hell? Why are you biting an apple?
It tastes good. I
know, it looks good.
Yeah, okay. You've been looking at me in the fucking eye. Okay, keep on.
So the first thing that he did right when he got sworn into office is he declared national emergency at the southern border. And what that did is it allowed military deployment to enhance border security. So we know from the last administration that the southern border was just a mess. And our previous episode, we did a deep dive that talked about the number of illegal immigrants crossing the border. And the numbers were just astonishing. I mean, the last administration, it was something like the administrations before Biden's administration were between 300,000 and 800,000. And then they jumped up to like 2.7 million. It was a crazy, crazy jump. So there's stuff going on at the border. So it's the national emergency. Military is deployed out there. Along with that, he started raiding illegal immigrant communities with ICE, trying to round up the illegal immigrants. And this roundup of illegal immigrants has caused massive protests across the country, with people waving Mexican flags. And again, let's keep it not political, okay? Let's get down to the facts. People crossing the border illegally means that they are committing a crime. That is in the laws of the U.S.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So there are means to cross the border legally, to go through the legal means. And so the individuals that are being rounded up by ICE have been crossing the border illegally by not going through the correct channel. So that makes them criminals. Again, taking the politics out of it, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, it doesn't matter. It's that the crime was committed. Now, these people are here, and people can talk about, oh, it's a criminal that, did this crime and did that crime. In the end, yes, those people are also bad. The people who are criminals.
I mean, you don't have to be
crimes.
a killer to be a criminal. A criminal is a criminal offense. I mean, if you commit a crime, it can be any sort of crime. They range from DUI to murder, you know?
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say, is that there's a range of crimes that can be committed, but every single person that's been here illegally has committed a crime. And there's a lot of politics that go into it, with kids getting separated from the parents. But, these are things that every American has to deal with on a daily basis. If they commit a crime with their children, they will get separated from their children.
Well, yeah, like the guy, what's the guy's name that said when he was on the stand,
Tom Holland, is that
yeah.
right?
So think about a drunk driver with a baby in the back seat or with a toddler in the back seat. Now you are driving drunk, right? You're technically not obeying the law. You're committing a crime. You get pulled over by an officer, and then if you're drinking over the limit, you committed a crime. Thus, you have to go get booked, go to jail, and then whatever happens from there. So now what happens to your kid? Of course you get separated from your kid. So like, what don't we talk about that? If you commit a crime, I understand, having kids, it's difficult to think about it like that. But what people are not understanding is that if you commit a crime, I mean, you commit a crime, that's it. Then you got to pay for it, You do the crime, you got to do the time, baby. That's just how it fucking goes, And now, because we feel bad for them, I mean, shit, let's feel bad for everybody, and let me just drain my bank account and give it to the homeless guy down the street, because I feel bad for him. That's just not how life works, It's like you do a crime, you got to pay for it. You got to be held accountable. Yeah. And I just don't understand why people are so shocked about this. I mean, every country does it. Like, it's always been like that until the last administration kind of fucked it all up. I mean, people have always come here illegally. It's a known fact. And this country is made up of immigrants. And I'm not, I'm an immigrant myself. I wasn't born in this country, but I still don't, there's a limit to everything. Now, okay, because I jumped the fence and I'm, I should be shielded automatically just because, I have a family now, I have a kid. So like, what? What's next? Give me a house, give me money, pay for my kids' education. Like, I mean, where does it end? Because if you're gonna make an exception for this, then how is it fair to the other person who cannot afford to bring his kids to school? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where is the limit? That's why there's laws set in place. You break the law, you gotta pay for it by either getting deported or doing jail time or paying a fine or whatever. That's why these laws are put in place, and not to drag this too much, but it's only fair to the law-abiding citizen, somebody that's coming here legally, jumping all the hoops, going through all the bullshit to get the visa and, filing all the requirements. And then those people come here, or somebody else just cross the border and why should they get both the same privileges? It's the same thing as somebody who went to Harvard or studied to be a doctor, right? And they go apply for that doctor job that they've been working, 17 years of school or whatever, how many years it fucking takes to be a doctor. And then somebody that has no education, and then that person should be accepted just because he showed up at the hospital door. You know what I mean? I know I'm being a little dramatic here, but...
It is a little bit dramatic, but there's videos online where people have been showing. So there's a guy specifically, there's a guy who has a family of, their total family of 5, and they're seasonal workers. So they work only during the season, and then the rest of the season that they don't have work, they get help from the government, and they get $500 a month per person. Per person at $500, you're at $2,500 a month. He has friends from Venezuela, or people that he knows from Venezuela, who are here illegally, who are getting $3,500 each for a family of 5. And he said, how is that fair when I am a U.S. citizen? I come through the means legally. I've worked really hard. I have a job. And when I need an extra help, he's like, what I'm very thankful for, a very super thankful person, said, I'm so glad that we were able to have food on our table. But why do I get $500 when somebody else who came here illegally gets $3,500?
That's a very good point. I mean, I wish I had a better answer. I wish I had an answer to answer that for you, but I don't. I don't know why that is.
Conspiracy theories, something's up, right? Whenever it doesn't make sense, something else is up.
There's always something behind that we only find out a few years after. I mean, eventually the reason for all this, it will come up. I mean, because I don't. It's like, like I just thought about this thing. It's like they have a number that they want to keep, right? They killed all these people with fucking COVID, and then they're trying to fill in that number by immigrants to like balance it out. Like, is that it? Like, like what is it?
That's a pretty deep spiral. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just, yeah.
All right, let's move on. Another thing that happened with this administration is the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord. So the treaty covered climate change mitigation, adaptation, and finance. The Paris Agreement was negotiated by 196 parties at the 2015 United Nations Climate Change Conference near Paris, France. So that's the background of Paris Climate Accord. It's all these countries kind of making a treaty that they are going to be climate conscious, and there's going to be some financials involved with that as well. Now, to note, countries like Iran, Libya, and Yemen have not ratified this agreement. The U.S. initially joined in 2016 under President Obama, withdrew in 2020 under President Trump, rejoined in 2021 under President Biden, and now we're withdrawn again in 2025. It just seems the idea behind, again, take out the politics of it. The U.S. was paying the most, and we are not the highest carbon footprint country. So why are we paying the most? It's just not fair. So that's one thing. Another thing that was done is the declassification of the JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King Jr. files. This was a move towards transparency. Now, originally, in his first administration, Trump said that he would release the files and then decided to not do that because it implicated people who were still alive. There's some rumors going around that it was Mike Pompeo that told him not to release it. Mike Pompeo, kind of a sketchy guy. We can do something on him at another time. This time, he signed...
For that, he should release them, I think, because, he promised people that. I understand there's, complications, but he's kept all of his promise. I mean, so I understand if a couple of them didn't go through. We all know that nobody keeps all of their promises as long as they keep all of them. But that's one that I really thought he would open up, although it seems high risk. There could be a lot of, secretive information that are not meant for the average Joe to get their hands on. But I really wanted to see those files. I'm curious for myself. That's why I wanted them to release it.
So this time, a lot of people are actually super curious about it. This time he signed the executive order to release the files.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
Yeah. And fun fact, he took the pen that he used to sign.
So why did you let me scramble for that?
Because what you're thinking is what a lot of people in America think. They want to see the files too, and they think it's only fair because he was alluding to it throughout running for president.
And then just like to throw this out there, as we prepare for these shows, FJ does all the preparation, and then I just kind of go off the script. I never prep. I never know what FJ is going to talk about on this podcast. So I'm just like the average American listening in and giving my comments so that, to make it fair. So none of my thoughts are pre-written, or I've never seen none of the script before until we aired these episodes. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, we try to keep it pretty authentic. The actual reaction is the real reaction that you're hearing. So going back to the declassification, so once Trump signed the executive order, he ended up taking the pen that he used to sign that order and gave it to RFK Jr., who is rumored to agree to back Trump if he released the files. So when Trump was running for president and RFK was running as an independent, he wasn't running in the Democratic Party. He wasn't happy with the Democratic Party. And a lot of people were backing him up. RFK is a very interesting individual. If you ever get into his ideas for health and politics, very interesting. And he felt like he was let down by the Democratic Party. And he the rumor is that he will back up Trump. He will kind of run with him if Trump agreed to release the files. So when he did sign the order to release the files, he gave the pen to RFK Jr.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Now that rings a bell. I remember seeing that. Okay.
All right, another big executive order was the one defining gender as strictly male or female, and that impacts transgender rights. So there's videos on X where people are showing that their new passports have come. You've probably seen their new passports have come in, and there's, obviously this person is transgendered, but they look very female, and they're saying, "Oh no, look, I just got my passport. It says male." Because that's not allowed anymore. Whatever gender you had at birth is what is saying on your official documents.
Absolutely. I have to agree with that. That's how it should be. And then you can decide to put makeup as you please, become a monkey. I don't give a fuck with. But if you're a male, you're a male. If you're a female, you're a female. It's just, it is what it is. I mean,
personally, I never understood the 100 genders. And when it comes down to it, our DNA reads either male or female. Like if civilization were to die out and they checked DNA of all these bodies, they would either check male or female no matter what you decided to dress up as. Your biology will always be male or female because that is natural life. Now, we've, as humans, have developed this type of, I want to say in quotes, mental illness, where they think that there's something more. But if we were to have like an earth-shattering event where something big was about to go down, nobody would focus on gender. They would only focus on survival.
For sure.
And if there was a world-shattering event like that, nobody would talk about their pronouns. Nobody would care about it. People would just be focusing on surviving. They'd be focusing on food, water, shelter, all the basic things of life, where now we have all those things. So this is the part where humans get comfortable, and making comfortable weak humans leads to all these crazy ideas.
That's what I was gonna say. I think that people are becoming too comfortable and they're getting too bored, I think, so they have nothing to do other than come up with this dumb shit. It initially probably came out just to seek attention or, get people to view your videos, and then it became like a thing, and now it's, it's all for show, I think, because I mean, maybe was this big before and I just never heard about it, because I feel like in the last few years is when this transgender thing, exploded. Because, yeah, sure, before, there was cases, you go to Thailand, there's a lot of she-males, as they call them, or whatever. But I don't know, I never thought it was always like this big. Now it's like the topic everywhere you go, everywhere you see it's like you're always in contact with somebody, or somebody's in front of you that's transgender or looks like a transgender at least. I don't know. It's just...
Well, social media has been pushing that a lot lately. It's exploded. If you see the next generation of kids, it's Gen X is what they're calling them. They are, I think, something like 25 or 30% of them don't identify as straight.
Yeah, but that's because kids want to fit in. You cannot ask a middle school kid, what are you, like, male or female? If you ask that question, then the dumb one is the one that's asking the question, I think. Because if you ask a 7 or a 10-year-old kid, like, do you identify male, female, or do you identify as something else, you're going to confuse the kid, and the kid's going to be like, oh shit, there's more than that. So because they're not sure, they're going to say, rather not say it, because they're probably afraid that they're going to give the wrong answer, because I feel like people are more confused, and that's why. So those surveys or those statistics, statistically, are not accurate.
Well, just this new generation, I think, of this kind of wanting to be accepting, transgenderism is such a small subset of a population. Yes, it's more prevalent now. It's still a very, very small number of people. And yet it's all over media. It's all over social media.
That's all you hear about.
So, I mean, conspiracy theory is that transgenderism has been pushed as an ideology in society for a while now. When you have the letters, right? LGBTQ, whatever. LGB is a sexual orientation. After LGB is where it gets crazy. And people who are gay or bisexual, they have even said that the idea of pushing all this crazy nonsense after LGB has caused our community, who is not the same as yours because ours is based on sexual identity, they have caused all these problems where now they're trying to overturn gay marriage just because of all these crazy things that have happened after you get past the LGB. Once you get into the Q, TQ plus, whatever, Two-Spirit,
HXQ,
Z,
QRS,
yeah.
DUV, ZUV, like, I don't know where it stops. But, I mean, listen, man, I don't care. Like, you can be whatever you want, but it's just like grabbing too much attention lately. If people want to be transsexual, whatever the fuck you're, like, be whatever you want, man. It's your choice. I don't give a fuck. But why is it becoming such a hot topic? You know what I mean? Why should I give a fuck about your feelings? I don't care. You know what I mean? I look at my feelings, you look at your feelings, man. You know?
Would you care if it was pushed onto children?
Of course I would care, because I have kids. I mean, you know, kids are going to be kids. They can be whatever they want. But if you're pushing this into a child, I feel like is going to be more curious to find out what this new thing is that nobody's talked about. So it kind of, I mean, that's something that a child or anybody under 18 should be taught about or talked about, because they're too young to understand. You know, kids don't even know what puberty is. You know, like how can you teach a kid about something like that? And then it's more the curiosity or the peer pressure that pushes, you know, most kids, you know, to take this different direction that when they're 18 they might regret. But if you get a surgery and then by the time you're 18 or 21, and most people still don't know what the fuck they want until they're 25, 30 these days. You know, they're still lost. You know, they still have that, you know, that baby brain. I feel like people are developing so much later and later, especially here in like US. I mean, I feel like Europe is a little bit different. People are more mature at a younger age, or over here you have 25, 30-year-old kids that they still have the mentality of a high school kid, you know? Let the kids learn about math. Let them learn how to read, how to write cursive maybe. I don't know. You know, teach all the things that a kid, like when you're a kid, your brain is like a sponge, right? So you suck everything in and you get all this information in. And as you get older, you know, we remember everything that we have learned or been taught, but it just goes in the back of your brain, and your brain, it's like an SSD card that uses the most relevant things they use every day, right? So all these things get stored in your head. So you want to teach these kids with things that they're going to use for the rest of their life, like read, write, learn how to do math, geography,
life skills.
You know, life skills, you know. And then once you learn all this stuff and you have a degree or like a high school diploma, when you're in the age where you are an adult and can make decisions for yourself and you are a little bit mature, you've seen a little bit of life, then you can make a decision. And if that decision is to be a transgender, then fuck it, it is what it is, you know what I mean? But teaching a kid that's never been outside of the house or school, other than their parents at home or with school with their teacher, they don't even know what life is yet. You know, how can you push that on the kid? You know, they don't know what to choose. They're going to choose it just because my friend chose this, so I want to be cool and I want to be popular just like my friend, so let me do this too. Whether that is become a certain species or transgender or gay, you know, it doesn't have to be anything specific. So
okay, so my theory is that it could be pushed on by media and the government for some reason that we don't know yet. There's an agenda, or it is just so weird that it's like one of those things that because it's so weird, people want to like know about it. Like back when we were younger, if you ever saw or if you knew somebody was trans, wouldn't you just want to like take a look at them and see like, what do they look like? It's just like one of those things that is just so freaky and weird that you just want to see it and hear about it and like learn about it because it's so weird.
Yeah,
it's a curiosity. So there's an element of that, and social media has pushed that because now you can just click and you can see whatever you want. So I think a little bit of that is just like, it's just weird. and people like to learn about weird things.
That's
Unfortunately, because it's weird, it has also now become really cool for some reason, and that's why I think it's sticking to the younger generation.
yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, so going back to executive orders, we went on a little tangent there. I want to compare Trump's executive orders to other presidents. So President Obama signed 18 executive orders. President Biden signed 25. This is in the first week. President Trump, I think it was like over 50, or like it's a crazy amount. Historically speaking, Franklin D. Roosevelt has the record of the most executive orders over his entire term, and that was 3,721 executive orders.
Wow.
And he made a lot of changes. President Roosevelt was one of the greatest presidents. Reagan, Roosevelt, those were all really, really great presidents. So you can argue that maybe having a lot of executive orders were done to push an agenda that would make America great, which is, I think, the point of the Trump administration this time around. He wants to do it right because this is his final chance.
No, I understand that, and that's why he's gone on kind of like full speed mode, because he knows that he only has this 4 years, to make the change that he wants to make. I also think that, he's trying to do good for this country, and he wants to put. So Trump, has pretty much has achieved most of the goals, if not every goal that he's reached for. So I think what his goal is now is to really make this country great again, and then for him to be in the history books as the best president to ever live, and the president who changed the country around and made it, better, for the best. So, and in a way, that's why I kind of believe that his motive is to really make this country great again,
And that's why he went crazy with his executive orders, to make sure that right at the beginning he kept all of his promises. He's doing the agenda that he said he was going to do, especially, and I'm moving over to the next topic about the deportations. So he promised that he was going to do a big deportation. So looking at the deportation numbers, although Trump has promised, and he's known for being like crazy and deporting a bunch of illegal immigrants, but during his first term, he deported 800,000 illegal immigrants. During Obama's terms, his 2 terms, he deported 3 million. So it's not like Trump went on a crazy spree the first time around. This time around, I think he's trying to fix the problem. He has to deport a lot of them. There's a lot of them that came in.
Oh, yeah.
The last administration.
Like you said, Obama deported a lot, like 2 to 3 million, like you said, and nobody said nothing about it. Now it's like, oh, this thing. I feel like everybody's like, well, at least the Democratic side of it, they just hate Trump, man. And they're pushing this agenda into everyone, and everybody's like following like a sheep, like yeah, let's do that, so they're giving him like all this shit, like, let the guy do his thing, give him 100 days and then judge him, see what he's gonna do. Everybody's like all on his ass like right away. Like the guy goes to take a piss and they're like, oh, he took a piss on the left side. Like, let the fucking guy do his thing, and then find out after 100 days, is it good, is it bad? And then, that's what we kind of all gonna get to see what he's done, because all these executive orders don't really mean nothing yet until something is made out of them, or a result has come out of them. Because just signing a piece of paper doesn't actually mean that that action is finished or done. So we'll wait and see. But I think that there's going to be a lot of good changes for this country.
Well, here's something that's actually happened. So with the signing of the executive order, with the ICE raids and the deportations, Trump prepared a military plane. I like to call this the Colombian incident. He prepared a military plane full of illegal immigrants that were Colombian nationals, and he sent the plane back to Colombia with all of the people that he deported. The flight was barred by President Gustavo Petro, who is the president of Colombia. And it led to kind of a Twitter X thing between him and Trump. They were just kind of sending messages to the public, but really to each other. And Petro demanded more humane treatment because it was a military plane that they were in. He didn't like the way it looked like they were being treated. And he said, you can't be rounding up people like that. You cannot land that plane here. So
If you don't like how people being treated, do something about the cartel, dude. People are dying on the streets for fucking $20.
So he demanded that the U.S. put procedures in place and wanted them to be treated with dignity instead of being cuffed and restrained. So that after that was said, and after that plane was barred from landing, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, and I'm going to read the post.
Please do.
All right, this is the post. I was just informed that 2 repatriation flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia. This order was given by Colombia's socialist president Gustavo Petro, who is already very unpopular amongst his people. He's got to throw a jab in, right? His denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the United States. So I have directed my administration to immediately take the following and decisively retaliatory measures. Hold on. 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States from Colombia, which will be raised to 50% if Colombia does not comply within 1 week. A travel ban and immediate visa revocations for all Colombian government officials, their allies, and supporters. Visa sanctions on all party members, family members, and supporters of the Colombian government, and enhanced customs and border protection inspections for all Colombian nationals and Colombian cargo. And with that, Colombia began its, quote, negotiations with the U.S. and began using its own government planes to transport their own nationals back home.
Then make them feel better.
So taking the politics out of it, okay, this was a typical power play that the president of the United States can leverage. And although President Petro of Colombia said that he will not be bullied, well, that same day, he kind of did get bullied into taking his people back with his own planes.
Well, yeah, I mean, Trump saved up on some jet fuel.
Exactly. On top of that, the first thing that he put on was a 25% tariff on all goods coming into the United States. Interesting fun fact about Colombia. One of the biggest trade imports from Colombia that we get into the U.S. is cut flowers. So now we're in the beginning of February. February 14th, the United States is the biggest purchaser of flowers from Colombia. If there was a 25, actually by then it would be 50% tariff on flowers, Colombia would lose a ton of revenue. So that was set at the perfect time.
Well, Trump is not stupid, man. He probably thought about that in advance.
I'm sure of it. But to make it more interesting, did you know that last year, during the Biden administration, 124 planes landed in Colombia, and they were deportation planes, but they were civilian flights, not military flights. And those were allowed in. 124 planes. So aside from the fact that how is that fair that Biden can land and Trump cannot, aside from that fact, how many people have actually come into the United States if 124 planes have landed a bunch of nationals back to Colombia? That's crazy. So our numbers...
Well, the numbers are more than...
They're more.
I mean, that's what's out there, registered. But you know how many people are here that they don't even exist in any paper, no fingerprints, nothing, nowhere? It's got to be at least 25% more than what the actual number is, if I had to guess.
Yeah, we don't have the exact numbers, but I mean that's just crazy to think about. So moving on from talking about executive orders and this Colombia incident, Trump was also involved in some domestic visits. One of them was in North Carolina. It was a post-hurricane visit with emphasis on quick federal aid and infrastructure. After getting hit from the 2 hurricanes, he visited North Carolina and really wanted to focus on rebuilding and providing federal aid besides the $700 that the Biden administration has sent them, which will do nothing. He also visited Los Angeles, and he met with Mayor Karen Bass post-wildfires. Interesting. At this meeting, Trump was asking questions about time and the time it would take for cleanup and all this. And the timeline that was given one day before by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on a Zoom call that Karen Bass had attended was 18 months. So what that means is that it would take the government 18 months to clean out debris in order to get people back into their homes.
Yep.
So Trump asking a normal question that anybody would ask, again, let's take the politics out of it. He just asked, why can't people just get a dumpster and go clean out their own sites? There's not much left. And he kind of put Karen Bass on the spot where she went ahead and changed the timeline and said, well, it's only going to take a few weeks. And Trump even pushed her again and said, why a few weeks? Why can't people just go today? And there was people who have lost their homes at this meeting, and they chimed in and said, I'm not even allowed to go in my street. Why am I not allowed to go see the...
No, because they're trying to say that it's not safe and blah, blah, blah. But if the fire is out, then why is it not safe, you know?
Exactly. So I don't know what's going on with that right now, but I did a little digging into Karen Bass. So I want to share that with you because you don't know
Please
this.
do.
Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, has been associated with the Venceremos Brigade, a group with Marxist-Leninist affiliations, particularly during the 1970s. So here's an overview. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Venceremos Brigade. This organization was founded in 1969 and facilitated trips for Americans to Cuba, often described as solidarity missions during a time when such travel was restricted due to U.S. policies against Cuba's communist government. So during this time, people from the U.S. were not allowed to travel, but this group was traveling back and forth to Cuba. Okay. Bass's roles. They described Karen Bass as the leader of the leader or an organizer of the Venceremos Brigade in Southern California during the 1970s. An October 1975 edition of the Communist Daily World newspaper referred to her as the leader of the Venceremos Brigade in Southern California. Additionally, a 1996 PhD dissertation notes that Bass was a brigadista and then organizer visiting Cuba every 6 months. So she was very much into the communist and the communist ideals, visiting Cuba and all that. The actual brigade was accused of various activities, including training in guerrilla warfare and bomb making. Bass has stated she's denied, so she stated she has not done that. They're mostly focused on supporting the regime. Mostly focused on building relationships between Americans and Cubans rather than supporting the regime's political ideologies. But I tend to think, like, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. You've been involved with a communist brigade for years where you were a leader and organizer of. I mean, what are the chances?
Of course, they're going to deny this. Or what are they going to say? Like, yeah, it was me. This is like politics 101.
Okay, another thing's happening, because a lot of things are happening. Another thing happening is the new cabinet confirmations. So Pete Hegseth, he was a Fox News commentator and he had a military background. He was confirmed for the role of Secretary of Defense. Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democratic congresswoman with military experience, she shifted to the Republican Party. She actually helped Donald Trump run. She is currently in the process of being confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence. And then Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he was an environmental activist with controversial anti-vaccine views, which everybody keeps bringing up. And he's awaiting confirmation for the role of Secretary of Health and Human Services. I'm excited about this. I think that he kind of brought to the forefront some things that were kind of shady that other people on the panel were doing. And he's just asking questions about vaccines. And it's like, you're not even allowed to ask questions. That tells me that something's up.
Yeah, I mean, all of the stuff that you hear from these Democrats, I mean, the things that they're talking about don't even make sense. You know, they're just saying like stupid stuff. But I think if Tulsi and Kennedy are confirmed, that just means that we are one step closer to the golden age. And, you know, that golden age will be here before we know it.
I don't know if you know a lot about Tulsi Gabbard. I actually listened to the podcast that she did with Joe Rogan. Super interesting person. She actually joined the military after September 11th. She's very patriotic. She cares about our country. She cares about the military. Very, very interesting person. And people who don't like her, I tend to think there's a hidden agenda to them. They don't like her because she's honest. Like, she actually cares.
Or some people,
Because she was in it. She I don't know how many tours she did in Iraq.
she's very
She's still in the
patriotic.
military.
Of course, yeah. No, but sometimes what people need to understand is that sometimes people have a negative feeling or they don't like somebody not because they actually did something wrong. It's just because that's what they heard in the media and that's what they're being told to do. So they just, which is sad in a way, because you hear people talking about like, oh yeah, I don't like, back when before the election, people like, why don't you like Trump? They're like, oh, I hate Trump, he's a misogynistic, and then people can't even like uh don't even know what misogynistic mean just because I heard that somewhere, and then they're like, oh, say one bad thing about him, one thing that you don't like, and then everybody's like, people like stuck, so like, why, if for you or for me to hate somebody, because hate is a strong thing, right? You gotta have a very good legitimate reason. You can't just say, oh, I hate him or her just because my neighbor said that they're no good, and this is most people these days. So Tulsi, like, people that don't like her is just because that they heard from somebody that she's no good and they really don't know the reason why.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, like I said, I listened to a podcast about her. She's a very interesting person. I almost like want to do an episode on her because she's lived such a crazy life and she's given so much of herself to the country.
No, she deserves to be head of intelligence.
Yeah, she does. So along with these confirmations, around the same time, there was a crash in Washington, D.C. between an airplane and a Black Hawk helicopter. It's all over the
news. Which I'm sure all of our listeners have heard about too.
Yeah, so we knew that there were 3 people in the helicopter and 64 people on the airplane, and there were no survivors. The identity of the lost lives have all now been confirmed, so they know who they are. Although for the helicopter pilot, that was kept private for a few days. So everybody was released except for the pilot. They cited that the family wanted to keep her name private, but
it's because she was a woman. It didn't feel right saying that because people were gonna judge and be like, oh yeah, you know how people are. I don't. They were thinking that, and then maybe had something to hide too. Because why would you hide that? There's a lot of decorated women that are in the military, like Tulsa. We're just just talking about. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think it was mostly because
maybe she was untrained. I don't mean to interrupt, but maybe she was an untrained helicopter pilot. That's another reason. But being a woman, I don't think that's a reason that they need to be held back or hide. There's nothing wrong with that.
So I think the reason why they were hesitant in the beginning to release her name is because it was understood that the helicopter caused the crash. The helicopter was off course by something like half a mile off course, and even at the wrong elevation. So we don't have the full details of it yet, but she was the last person to get identified. Now we have her name. Her name was Captain Rebecca Loback. Did some digging on Captain Loback. She served as a White House military social aide during the Biden administration. And this role typically involves assisting with logistics, events, and ceremonies during her duties at the White House. Not only did she serve as an aide, but she was also involved in high-profile events like escorting designer Ralph Lauren when he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Joe Biden in January. The crazy thing, this is why everybody's, rumors and conspiracy theories.
That's why we're here.
So social media users have said that her accounts were rapidly deleted after her name was revealed, and some of them were even scrubbed empty to not show information. So before the crash of when her name was released, nobody knows anything about her. All they know is what has been said in the media. That's it. There's no social media. Yeah, I know, it's weird, right?
Oh, why though?
That's the thing, is we don't know why. But the connections to the Biden administration makes people think certain things.
We got to give something more to our listeners. So we got to do some digging on that. And next time.
I think we need to hear more about what actually happened, and then we can start piecing, because we don't know what happened with the helicopter. But we were told that there were some other near accidents right before the helicopter crash. And this scrubbing of her posts, her social media, pretty much all of her social media was scrubbed clean or deleted. That suggests that maybe somebody was managing her online presence, and maybe her political ties could have something to do with that. This is all speculation. We don't know if that's true. But conspiracy theories is maybe her connection to the Biden administration is what is causing all of this aftermath of the scrubbing and not information about her.
We will do some more digging on this and have more information on this for you at future episodes. And there's nothing else out there due to this incident still being under investigation. The information that's out there is very limited. That's why this is all we have on this right now. But this will be an interesting topic to talk about in a future episode.
Yeah, and before we close this off, so she was noted to have 500 hours of flying experience, and asking or listening to other pilots, military pilots who are helicopter pilots talk about this, they said that that is nothing.
Especially for somebody to be trained at a sophisticated, because understand the training that they were doing, it was night. They also had night vision goggles on, and when helicopter pilots or when missions involve night vision goggles, you know that those are some high-tech missions. It's like when you go to take out Bin Laden or shit like that. It's not every day that you go in a mission where you wear night vision goggles, and night vision goggles are typically worn in areas with low population, like villages where there's nowhere close to the city, because in the city too, like where the night vision is like a lot of lights that vehicles driving or airplanes or street lights or any lights, they can kind of mess up your vision, because any light is very sensitive to the night vision, because the night vision, the way it works is, it tries to make everything bright when it's dark, but when it's actually different sources of light, it messes your vision up. And that could also be one of the reasons that they crashed, because they were practicing a night vision practice in an area with a lot of light. So that could very well be the reason why.
Another reason is some people were saying, some helicopter pilots, going back to the 500 hours, if you have 500 hours of flying experience, you would not be put in a position where you'd be flying that helicopter, one. And two, with 500 hours of flying experience, how did she become a captain? I mean,
it's a very good question. Yeah,
she was fairly young. And again, we're speculating.
500 hours or flying hours, it's not a little bit of hours, but it's not a lot of hours either. So I mean, technically, to fly a small plane, you only need 40 hours of flight time. And if you're good enough, you pass your exam.
This is a helicopter.
You can get your license. Helicopter
this is different.
Yeah, but it's not a lot of hours by any means. No.
So again, that's what's fueling the conspiracy theories, but we'll leave it at that because we need to do some more digging once we hear more about what happened. I want to move to the U.S. aid topics that are being discussed all over social media right now. USAID aid. It stands for the United States Agency for International Development. And the purpose of USAID is the U.S. government agency that is primarily responsible for administering civilian foreign aid and developmental assistance. So it's essentially giving money or aid to foreign civilian countries, to other countries, outside the U.S. There's a theory. So USAID is often accused of being a front for CIA operations, and some claim that under the guise of humanitarian aid, USAID engages in espionage, regime change, and other covert activities to support U.S. geopolitical interests. This theory stems from historical instances where USAID projects were allegedly used for intelligence gathering or supporting opposition movements, like the case of the Cuban Twitter project aimed at promoting political unrest in Cuba. So there's been instances where that may be the case. It may not be a rumor. It may actually be an actual thing. USAID also is criticized for pushing liberal or woke ideologies onto other countries. And this includes allegations that USAID funding is used to promote abortion, transgender rights, and other social issues in recipient countries, often against local cultural norms or laws. I believe that.
Well, there's a big list of where the money was being used. There was like millions of dollars in Africa for transgender rights. that was $34,000. I know this is like a small in Colombia to have a transgender of what do you call it, musical. There was money being sent to Venezuela to have a transgender comic book that included transgender topics. There was money sent to Colombia, to all the southern countries, but also in Europe. There was even like 1.5 million sent to Serbia to include what do you call it, transgender topics or ideas in workplaces. There was 50 million sent to Africa, I believe. There was 60 million sent to what was the 60 million sent? So there was like there's a big list of them that I just happened to stumble on earlier. I didn't know that we were going to talk about this. I would have read it more carefully, but yeah, there was like tons of money. There's a big list that actually they revealed the list of where the money has been going, and most of it makes no sense. Like some of the topics on there, it's just pointless.
Yeah, and I think some of the things that they're talking about right now is all of the, or not all, but a lot of Congress people in politics are speaking out against Elon Musk because he is the head of Doge who is looking into it.
Well, he's the one who's exposing where all the money is went. I think he's the one who, made all the list public where all the money has been going for the last, few years that the last administration was giving away.
Yeah, so a lot of people are kind of calling him out saying, well, they're saying like, oh, look, it's President Elon. So they're trying to push, I think in a way they're trying to push Trump's buttons by telling him that Elon's actually running the country.
Because
And I think they're doing it because he's exposing things that they don't want to be exposed. And the only way that they can combat it is by trying to get Trump to push him out.
Or try to get people to get angry in politics. So, but if the guy's doing a good job, then let him do his thing. And everybody's saying, like, we didn't vote for Trump. I mean, we didn't vote for Elon. We didn't vote for this. But then you got Tesla. You got SpaceX. You got, what's the internet thing that he's doing?
What is that?
Starlink. You got Starlink. This dude went to space to get astronauts that the U.S. government could not bring back. So he's like, I'm going to go take him. So give the guy some credit. I mean, he might be weird in his own ways, but, he's doing a good job. And I'm sure if Trump picked him, and let's get this straight, it's not that Elon is running, the country. Trump is the elected president running the country. The now empowered president, and he's the one who hired him for this job. So for Trump to hire him for this job, Trump must see something in him. So he's taking orders directly from Trump, which is what the president does. He appoints people that are good at what they do to do certain jobs. So now, just because some people don't agree with that, well, then it's not your fucking choice. It's Trump's choice. And if that's what he thinks, then that's what he's going to do. And that's why he's a president.
Well, if Elon Musk was still a Democrat and the president was a Democrat, no one would even be talking about it.
Of course not.
Oh, this is amazing. You're exposing where our tax dollars are going. They're making it a big deal only because of politics. In this episode, I know it's pretty one-sided. We're talking about Trump because he is the president. But if you take politics out of it, again, the nature of exposing where U.S. tax dollars are going, why is that bad? Doesn't everybody want to know where our money is going? We pay a lot of taxes.
I think that everybody should do their own research. Don't listen to us. Don't listen to anybody. And the reason that I talk like this, again, I've never been a Democrat or a Republican. I just look at the facts, and I can tell right through the bullshit. And to me, Trump seems like he's doing a good job.
In the first 2 weeks, and I'm telling you, this is probably one of our longest episodes. There's so much to talk about.
And I feel like we still didn't cover everything 100% just because there's so much happening all at once.
Yeah, we kind of went a little quick because there's just so much going on. This was 2 weeks, and it honestly felt like 2 years.
It's done more than Biden did in 4 years so far. So, yeah, I'm sure our next episode is going to be a fun one.
I agree. Well, I think we're going to end it here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we've definitely navigated through a sea of executive orders today, policy pivots, public outcry. There's been so much drama. We've even explored conspiracy theories. It was a good episode.
Yeah, I think we covered some interesting topics. thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you all next time.
Yeah, I'm FJ. I'm signing off for now.
And I am your co-host, DJ.
Thanks, everybody.